Hi, this is Amber from the A team. We're bringing you today a session on presenting with Google Slides. So we're going to take a look at the basics of Google Slides. We'll learn how to create a presentation with Google Slides and some of the tips and tricks for using it. So stick with us and we'll go on our little Google Slides adventure. The first thing that you're going to want to do is log into your Google account so that you can access Google Slides. First, you'll go to the Rubik's Cube icon or the waffle icon. And the way that we're going to get to Google Slides is not by clicking on the Slides app. We're actually going to go in Drive. We've talked a little bit about why we do this. We've heard feedback that a lot of users get a little disoriented when they go into the actual apps instead of going into Drive and thinking of it the way that they're used to thinking of it in the Microsoft Office environment. So we're going to do both ways later, but for now we're going to go into Google Drive. So if you'll click on Drive and open your Google Drive app, once inside Drive, you should see your folders and all the things that are inside your Google Drive. This is another reason we like to bring you here so that you can go ahead and organize it the way that you want. So let's say I'm going to start making some presentations and I want to create a folder so that I can put all my presentations in one place. So just to kind of review a few of the things that we've talked about with using Google Drive, one of the things that you can do is while you're in My Drive, you can either right click and create a folder, or you can go over to the left and choose New Folder. Either way works. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder, and the first thing it's going to ask me to do is name it. And so because I'm going to use this to put all my presentations in, I'm just going to call this my Google Slides presentation folder. And then I'll click Create, give it a second, and it'll populate into my list. So here's my Google Slides presentations folder. So I'm going to go inside that folder so that I can focus on creating my presentation in this organized folder. Now, before we get started on Google Slides, I want to talk to you a little bit about PowerPoint because there are many of you out there who have created presentations with PowerPoint and you think, oh, I don't want to start over with Google Slides because I've already spent so much time in the Microsoft Office PowerPoint environment. You don't have to actually start over. The great thing about Google Slides is you can pull in PowerPoint files into the Google Slides environment and actually create a Google slide from an existing PowerPoint. So we're going to do two things. I'm going to show you how to pull in a PowerPoint file first and turn that into a Google slide, and then we're going to work on creating one from scratch. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I've saved a presentation here on my desktop that is in PowerPoint. So if I were to look at the properties of this file, you'll see it's a PowerPoint document. So I'm going to be in this folder and I'm going to drag and drop, and notice you get the little bouncing cloud that's saying, okay, drop this here, and I will drop this file so that I'm dropping it into this Google Slides presentation folder, and it's actually uploading, you can see in the bottom, a PPTX file, which is a PowerPoint file. And so as it's uploading this PowerPoint file, it's keeping its original PowerPoint format. So you'll notice that it's definitely a PowerPoint file because we get this PPTX at the end, but we also get the orange P that's indicative of it being a PowerPoint file. So this is not a Google Slides file. This is a PowerPoint file. So I'm going to close my little window here because it's successfully uploaded. And let's say that I've uploaded this from my teacher computer, but then I go home and I want to work on it. Generally speaking, if you want to always keep it in PowerPoint mode, you're going to have to download it, edit it in PowerPoint, and then re-upload it. But if you create it into a Google Slide presentation, then you'll have what we've been talking about all throughout, a live document that's always the same, so that you can access it from anywhere without having to download and upload various versions. So to do that, I'm going to double click on this introducing PowerPoint presentation, and you'll notice again it's still a PPTX, it still has that orange P, And at the top where it says open, I'm going to click there so you can see some different options here. Notice it says, do you want to open this with Google Slides? Google's very smart. It recognizes that a PowerPoint is something that you would open with its app called Google Slides. So I'm going to go ahead and open it with Google Slides. So what it's doing right now is it's kind of translating it into the Google Slides world. So it's no longer going to be a PowerPoint, but it doesn't delete my PowerPoint file. It's just creating a Google Slides file. So what I'm going to do really quickly before we look at this presentation in Google Slides, I want to go back to the Drive view for just a minute. So I'm going to close this preview and I want to show you what happened in my Drive. Now remember, I had my Google Slides presentations folder and I dragged from my desktop this introducing file and dropped it here. That's what this one is. That's that orange P, that PowerPoint file. As soon as I told Google to open it in Google Slides, it created a second presentation, but you'll notice by this icon, it's the Google Slides icon, which is the orange icon with the white box in the middle. So this is a PowerPoint file. This is a Google Slides file. So I'm going to take a moment, go back to my Google Slides tab, and do something that I would highly recommend. When you drag in a PowerPoint file and then open it with Google Slides, it will maintain the name. That's a great thing, except that for me, I like to remove this PPTX because that is not the format this is in. This is a Google Slide now. So I can actually take that off, and that also helps me know which one is the PowerPoint version and which one is the Google Slides version. So if I were to go back over here, now you'll notice it's called Introducing, and that PPTX is gone, and this is my PowerPoint file. Now what I would do, this is just something that I recommend, is go through the slides in Google Slides and make sure everything came over okay, if everything looks great, and there doesn't seem to be anything that's a problem. I don't really need this PowerPoint version anymore because it's saved on my desktop. I just needed to pull it into Google Drive so that I can turn it into Google Slides. And for me, this PPTX file is static. I can't change it in Google Drive. It only just sits there kind of as is in a holding place. So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove this one because I don't need it anymore. I've got it on my desktop if I absolutely have to have it, but I'm getting ready to make some changes to it so that I can access it from anywhere in Google Slides. So now that I only have this one version, over here you'll see this is exactly the one that I'm working with. So just like any other thing in Google, once it's in the Google format, you can get rid of that Microsoft Office version unless you just need to archive it for some reason. And here, this one, I can edit, I can, do whatever I need to it, but it's in Google Slides format now instead of PowerPoint. Now, just to show you, in case this makes you nervous to pull it out of PowerPoint, put it in Google Slides. What if you need it to be in PowerPoint mode because it's for a class and the expectation by the teacher is you have to send it to me in PowerPoint format? Well, just because it's in Google Slides doesn't mean it's in there forever, imprisoned in Google World. What you can do is go up to File, and you can actually download it again as a PowerPoint file, so that after you made changes in Google Slides, you can still download it again as PowerPoint. But again, once you put it back into that PPTX format, it's static again. So I like leaving it in Google so that it's a live document all the time. But there is that option if you need it. So what we just did there was take a PowerPoint, put it into Google Drive, open it into Google Slides. We got rid of the PPTX version because we didn't need it anymore. And now we have this live document that's here. That's an already created presentation. So what you may want to do is, if you have PowerPoints that you've spent a lot of time creating for your classes, for whether you're a student or a teacher or whatever, if you've created PowerPoints that you spent time on, it doesn't mean just because we're in Google that all that hard work went down the drain. Just pull them over into your Google Drive, open them with Slides, and then you can either delete the PowerPoint versions if you don't need them anymore, or you can leave them in there for archive, but now you've got Google Slides. So that's using an existing presentation. So now let's talk about creating one from scratch. It's pretty easy, and if you're familiar with PowerPoint, that's going to give you a leg up and so many words. But there may be those of you watching this presentation that have never even made a presentation before. So now we're going to kind of back up and imagine you've never done this before, or it's your first time using Google Slides. So again, the same way that we did before when we created our folder, we can right click and make a new Google slide, or we can go over to the big red button and say new Google slide. Either way, whatever you prefer. So I'm going to create a Google slide presentation. You'll notice it opens in a new tab. The first thing I like to do before I do anything else is name this presentation. You can always change it later, but it's always good to put a name on there. So I'm going to call this Intro to Google Slides. And this is going to be my presentation that I'm creating, is the Introduction to Google Slides. So now my tab matches the name of my file. So now that you've given it a name, you can also verify that these changes are always being saved, because when I go back into my Google Slides presentations folder, there's the one I just created and it's already named what I asked it to be. So that's the other great thing about Google. It's constantly saving for you, so you don't have to worry about losing content. So when you're creating a presentation, many of you, it's very important that it look a very specific way. And when you create a PowerPoint file, you have to choose a theme. The same thing is true with Google Slides. Over on the right, what will open initially are some themes that are already built into Google Slides. And you can see there's several different ones here to choose from. And I'm going to pick one in just a moment. But what I do want to say is near the end, I'm going to show you a way to find some other templates and other designs that will also work with Google Slides. So you don't have to be trapped into these. Also, at the very bottom down here, there's Import Theme. If you are a Microsoft Office PowerPoint user and you have a lot of themes saved on your computer, you can actually pull themes in as well. We won't go through that point today, but I wanted to show you that that is there in case you have some themes and you want to bring those in. So I'm just going to choose a theme, and again, you can click on it. Anything that you've put in there already is going to go into that theme, and if I didn't like that one and I wanted to choose a different one, I can keep clicking until I get the theme that I like. So you'll probably find your favorite one and use it lots and lots, but this one's one I'm going to go ahead and use this one. So this is my introduction into Google Slides. So now that I've picked a theme, anytime I add new slides, it's going to have that theme associated to it. So I'm going to go ahead and follow the directions. Just like PowerPoint, you get these tips on where to put your text and content. So I'm going to click here and add my title. So this is Intro to Google Slides. Here's my text in here. You can highlight things and change them. You can change your font. You can change the font size. Maybe I want to go down because I want it to all fit into this white box. So you can do those things as well. I'm going to say by the A team here on the slide. So there's my first slide. So again, we're adding content to this kind of template of sorts in this theme. Now, when you get ready to add additional slides, there is a plus sign over on the left, but I highly recommend that you actually click the triangle so that you can see the different versions of slides within that theme. So if you wanted to head a particular section, or maybe you just want to have a title with text, maybe you want 2 columns, you can choose whatever format it is here that you want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a section header because I'm going to do this section here. So I'm going to add a section header. It's going to put it right after the slide that I just had. So we're going to call this one adding content, because right now we're going to add some content to this presentation. So after I've put my slide header in, I'm going to go back, and I'm not going to click on the plus sign because I really want to make sure I'm choosing the appropriate style for what it is I'm trying to do. So now I'm at a place where I just want to have some title and a body of text. So I'm going to choose that one. So you can see how now I'm building this here. And as you add text, it's going to take on that theme. So, so I'm going to say, here's how to add content. Okay. And again, this is, oh my, sorry about the misspelling. You can go in here and do exactly what it's telling you to do in terms of adding text. This is why it's super easy for students to use, because it's basically choose the format you need and type your text in it. So, you know, here we're typing our text, and the typing part's fine. The choosing the font and the size and bold and italics, all these tools up here you're very used to using, so those should be good to go. But what I want to do now is I want to add a blank slide, because I want to talk to you about some of the things that you can add into Google Slides. So I'm going to choose a blank one purposefully, because now I get no tips here, so I get some more options about things that I can add. So I'm going to go back into insert, because insert is going to give me some things that maybe aren't already there that I want to add. One of the things that you can add is a text box. When I choose text box, I get the crosshair. So that crosshair is going to allow me to draw a particular size box, and then I can put my text inside. So this is a text box. You'll notice this particular text box is invisible. So when I click off of it, you don't see the box. But if you wanted a box around it, there's some other tools. There's the line tool, and there's also the fill tool. So maybe I want to have these are the theme colors down here. I always like that, because when you choose a theme, they always have a bar down here with the colors that are used in that theme, so you don't have to guess which blue is this. It's going to hand it to you. So maybe I want to have this box have a black border. So now it has a black border, and if I wanted it to be filled with that blue, that's the theme blue, I can choose that as well. So you can fill things and you can draw lines. So now I have this text box, and a text box is going to be movable around the screen. So there's my text box. So that's one of the things that you can place inside your slide. Now, another thing that is under the insertion menu is an image. So perhaps you have a picture that you would like to place into your Google Slides presentation. Well, when you choose Insert Image, you're going to get several different options. So let's talk about these. Upload is the first option that's going to come up, and this is, I have something on my computer, it's not in Google Drive, it's either on a thumb drive or saved onto the hard drive on my computer, and I want to upload it. And you would simply choose an image to upload and find that image, and then it would upload into your Google slide. You can also upload by URL. So if you have the URL of the picture, you can place it here. I just want to say this little disclaimer: don't pull someone else's image off the web and use it in your presentation unless you have permission, or there's a release of copyright on the image. Then we have, beyond this line, we have your albums. Now these are pictures that are in your Google Drive. So if I have some pictures that I want to place in, let's say that we've been talking about how to use Google presentations, and so I want to show them how to use it on their laptop. Maybe I want to put this picture in, so I can click select. Once you click select, it adds it in, and then you can, resize it and move it around. I want to go back into insert image again so you can see these other options. If you don't have albums created, you can just go directly into Google Drive and search through your folders. But there's also a search box. I do want to just say that if you search here, you're going to be finding things that are labeled for commercial reuse with modification. So if you're searching within Google Slides, you're probably going to need to look under here and make sure that you're looking for things that say, you can use these, you're all good. So let's say that I want to look for pictures of computers for my Google Slides presentation. It's showing me results that are labeled for commercial reuse with modification. So I'm actually not going to modify it. I'm just going to choose one here. This is the where this picture lives. So I can hit select, and there it is there. So it's popped in here, and I've got now 2 pictures of computers on my page. So that's how you insert an image in different ways. You can either have the picture already, search for the picture, or you could have it in your Google Drive. So that's inserting images. Now, to do this next part, which is a video, this to me makes me super excited. If you are a person that has PowerPoint experience, you know that inserting a video into a PowerPoint is not the easiest of things to do. And if you do manage to get it in there, if you try to take this presentation and use it somewhere else, you might have a lot of problems because sometimes the video doesn't come with the PowerPoint. So one of the things that I absolutely love about Google Slides is that it is going to seamlessly put this video as part of this presentation. So I'm going to click on Insert Video, and what you'll notice is you have 2 options. You can either find the video by searching for it in YouTube, or if you click on URL, you can put the YouTube URL in here. So I have a video over here that I wanted to be able to put into the presentation. This is one you've searched for, you've watched the whole thing, and you want to put in your presentation. So here is this video. I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to go back to my Google slide, and I'm going to paste this URL here. Now, what I love about it is that it then shows you a preview of the video, as if to say, is this the right one? Did you paste the right URL in here? And if you're sure that's the video you want, you simply select it. And here's what's fantastic about it. Now you have this movable video that you can put into your presentation. You can resize it if you want to. And when you're in presentation mode, it does give you this little camera, so you know that one is actually a video and these are pictures. After you go in presentation mode, this will actually play. So that's a great thing. So if you've got a video that you want to use, put it on your YouTube channel. And if you're not sure how to do that, if you've accessed this video, if you go onto our YouTube channel, we actually have a video on how to do things on your YouTube channel. So you may want to start putting videos in there because it's super easy then to put those into your presentation. Okay, so we've got this video into our presentation as well. Now there may be a time when you need a link in your presentation. So let's say I'm going to put in this text box here, click here to go to the greatest site ever. And maybe I want the word here to be a link. So I'm going to highlight it. It's a little difficult to see with that blue, but I've highlighted the word here. If I go over to insert, I have the ability to add a link, but you'll also notice there's a link icon here. So I'm going to insert a link, and I'm going to say, where do you want to go here? So you can either link it to another slide in this presentation, which is awesome because if I wanted to go from one slide to the next, if I was creating a game, that's a really neat thing to do. Or I can paste the link in here, and I'm just going to send it to Google. That'll be an easy thing. So I want this to go to google.com. So yes, this is the one I want it to go to. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to click apply. Now this is really hard to see because it actually makes the links that color. So maybe I'm going to dump in a different color here. So let's do that so it's easier to see. So now click here to go to the greatest site ever. So if someone comes to my presentation and they are exploring, maybe I created this for students and I made it as a presentation resource with all the links in it that they needed to go and do some research on a particular topic we were doing. Then when it's in presentation mode, they can click there and go directly to the site. So now you have also inserted a link. So now let's look at some of the other options that you have to insert. We can also insert word art. Now, we're used to Microsoft Office word art, if you've ever put that into a presentation, but this one is a little bit different, and I find it a little bit easier to use. So let's say I want to put in some word art, and I want it to say explore, like I want them to totally explore this page of my presentation. So notice it says to enter the text, and then you press enter. So once I press enter, it took the text that I had in the box and it made a little word art here. Now you see how it's got a border around it. Now notice I have some tools up here. So maybe I don't want it to be gray. Maybe I think gray is boring. So I wanted maybe it to be this hot pink color, and maybe I want the line color to be green, whatever. So you have this option. You also have the ability to change the fonts. So word art is basically giving you a place to have a fill color, a line color, and have text that you can move around and manipulate the color and the style for. So this is our little word art piece here. So that's inserting word art. You also have the ability to insert lines just like you do when you're doing Google Docs. There are these, this is the ability here to add in some lines. So if you needed to draw a line or a curve or connectors, if you're doing maybe some sort of thinking map kind of thing, you can also use these tools. Or maybe you needed an arrow. Maybe I want this arrow to point here and I want them to explore. I also have the ability to do different weights. So if I wanted a really thick arrow that maybe was colored green, you can do that as well. So then these are manipulatable on the screen. So let's go to insert again. You also have the option to insert shapes. There are lots of different kinds of shapes that you can use. Whenever you choose a shape, you will get the crosshair where you can just draw it. There are different types of arrows. If you needed a splash feature on your page, or if you're doing some kind of mathematical terms and you want to insert some equations as images, you can do that as well. But whenever you choose a shape, you get your crosshair, you simply drag and release, and then you get those fill tools where you can change the colors and you can do different things with the image. All of those are available through lines and shapes. You also have the ability to add, maybe you needed a chart on a particular page, you can actually add in a table. So if I wanted a table with 2 columns and 3 rows, I can insert that and drag this around too, and then this becomes something I can use on my page. So maybe this is the day, this is Monday, we're going to explore this, and Tuesday, and then maybe I'll put links on this side. So you see how then you can add things this way too. And I guess I need to make that a little bit wider so Wednesday will fit on one line. So you see how all these things are draggable. So then I can move things around. So then that's inserting a table. Okay, so lots of different things that you can add in and create your own sort of design on the slide, but you can also just insert the slide from this insert slide menu that's kind of outlaid the way that you want to put your content in. So you can choose the slide which best matches the purpose of what you're doing. So that's inserting and adding slides. Now, I will show you that while you have a slide selected, you do get some options across the top. For example, here I have background. So if maybe I added this blank slide, but I want it to have some sort of background, I could choose an image as a background, but I can also maybe say that I want to choose a color as the background. So I can change the color on this particular slide. So you do have the option to do backgrounds. If you had chosen the wrong layout, you can always go back and change the layout. For example, let me show you on this slide so this is better to understand. So maybe I wanted to have 2 separate columns here, but I accidentally chose this one. All you have to do is go and choose the slide, and you will not lose your content. It will just switch it to that layout. So that's something that might be helpful as well. And again, you always have access to the themes in case you've closed this window. If I close this by accident and I say, oh no, I wanted to change my theme, you can always click theme and bring that back up. Okay, so now we've got some content in there. I do want to talk to you a little bit about the tools at the top just in case you don't want to use the insert menu. You'll see here is how we can also add a text box and an image and our shapes and our lines. Those can come through this top area as well. There is an undo button and a redo button that can help you if you need to do that as well. Now, let's say you made your slides, but you wanted to move them around. It's as simple as dragging something and dropping it. You'll notice I get this really dark line, so I can actually drag and drop it in different places. So if I put it in a different order. Perhaps I want to make sure all my slides are exactly like this. You can also right click and duplicate a slide. So maybe I want to pull this one down here, and this one was about adding content, but let's say this one is about arranging slides. So that now I have some headings here. So if you ever want to duplicate a slide and just make a few tweaks to it, you can do that as well. There's also the ability to right click and delete a slide if you wanted to do that too. So lots of different things that you can do here. We've added some content. We've talked about how it's going to look. Then maybe we've decided, you know, I need some people to help me with this. Either give me feedback or maybe I want them to actually help me create it. Remember that that awesome piece of Google is that collaboration is such an integral part of any creation that you have with Google. So I can actually go over to the right and choose to share this presentation. So right now I'm in as Jane Doe, and let's say I really need Amber to come in here and help me with this presentation because maybe we're in a group and I'm making slides for my topic and I need her to come in and add the slides for the topic she was assigned. So you can actually add people into your presentation so that you can collaborate synchronously or asynchronously to create it. Now I can decide here if I want Amber to be able to just look at it. Maybe I just need her to look at it and talk to me about it later. I can also give her the ability to make comments but not actually change anything, or I can give her edit rights so that we can work on it together. So I'm going to choose that Amber can edit it with me. And I'm going to say, please add your slides to this presentation because maybe we're doing this project together. So I'm going to go ahead and send this. I want it to notify her because I want her to get an email. So I'm going to click send. Now over in Amber's email box, she's getting an email from Jane Doe saying, can you please come and help me edit this and add your slides? So when she gets that email, once she comes into this presentation with me, you'll actually see her image pop up across the top, because she's going to be in here with me editing. So anytime users are together in a document, you will see their pictures across the top. So now you just saw Amber came in and she joined me. So now there are two of us in here working on this presentation. So as she begins to add any slides to this presentation, then I will be able to see it happening. So you notice I'm not doing anything, but you can see Amber starting to add some content, and as she's adding it, I'm seeing those changes. The other thing that I like about this is when you're in a slides presentation, you can see exactly on which slide this user is, because I see she's got hot pink across the bottom of her. So I see this little hot pink line on this one, and when I hover, it shows me this is where Amber is. So if I want to be on the same slide as her, I can go there and we're both on the same slide, or I can be working on a totally different one while she's working on hers. So then this becomes a really super interactive presentation because we're able to create it together, even though we may not even be in the same room, or it may be totally different times of the day. And the great part of it is we couldn't do that when we're using something on the L drive or on the M drive, because we couldn't really say, hey, you have edit rights to this and you can access it from anywhere. We would have to attach it as an email, then they would add their slides, save it, and send it back to you, and it really slows down the collaboration process. In this particular way, we can actually be working together and not even be in the same place, and we're creating it simultaneously. So this is a great thing to think about, whether you're making a presentation, maybe your team, your grade level team is doing a presentation, or your department is doing a presentation, or if you have students doing this, you can be collaborating on it together at the same time. So that's a really cool thing to note, is that this kind of becomes PowerPoint on steroids, because now we're all collaborating and creating it together. So that's that share piece. Also, I did want to show you is, let's say we were doing this as a group, and maybe Amber did her part, but I don't want anything else to be changed anymore. There are a couple new features that I want to talk to you about. There is this little stopwatch feature that you may have seen kind of showing up, and maybe you didn't know what that was for, but I can actually set an expiration date on her access to this file. So I can click that set expiration, and I can say, in 30 days, in 7 days, in 2 days, whatever, I can actually say, you can edit this file for 7 days, and then you lose your access. And I don't have to remember to go in and take her access away. It'll just expire. So that's really kind of cool. I'm actually going to cancel that because I want her to stay there. But I did want you to see that there is the ability to set the expiration date. There is also, what you just have to do is come in here 7 days later and then change the access. So what this does, it just allows you to set an expiration. There's also the comment feature. So if maybe Amber puts her slides in and I have a question about this slide, I can add a comment and click the comment button and say, is this your title? Because this is really not a good title. And after I ask that question, when I hit comment, notice how it's not actually on the slide, it's just sort of next to it. So when she goes in and she looks at her slide, she's going to see that question that I asked her, is this your title? And she will actually be able to say whatever she wants to say. So we'll see if she says anything back. And she can reply if she wants to. Oh, she just replied. No, it's a placeholder. So then I'm like, okay, well, good. So I'm going to resolve that error because I thought that was a mistake. So you can have some conversations in this document as well. So lots of different things to look at. You create it, then you can actually take it to the next level and share it and collaborate on it. So now let's move even forward. Let's say that our team is finished. We've created this amazing presentation and we're finished with it. So now what kinds of things can you do with it after you're finished with it? Presenting your slideshow is really super easy because at the very top of your window is the present button. Now you could just click that button and it's going to present it directly from the very beginning of the presentation. There's also a few other options though that I want to show you. There's also the ability to present with speaker notes. So if you've typed any notes underneath to kind of give yourself some speaking topics, you can present with those. It wouldn't show up on the projector, but it would show up on your screen if you chose to use that. There's also present in new window. Now I'm going to use that now so I can actually present to you without it taking over my whole screen so you'll be able to see it. So I'm going to choose present with new window. And I want to show you how it comes into the presentation window. So you see here, I've opened my presentation in a new window, and it still looks like it's in a browser, and that's because I've opened it in a new window. If you choose to just do it full screen, it won't have that, but I chose it in a new window so I could actually show you the presentation mode. When you move your mouse over a presentation mode, you get this little box on the bottom that shows you that you can advance to the next slide. You can play it, especially if it has animations on it. You can decide to play it. You can also choose a specific slide to go to, and then you also have your full screen mode if you've gone into window mode and you want to change that. There's also an option button where maybe I wanted to open my speaker notes, or maybe I just wanted to edit it again. And then there are also some download options as well. If I wanted to download as PDF, I can do that from here too. But it's nice because you can either just click or use your arrow keys to move through. Notice if I have a video, I actually have to click play to play the video, but it does play within the window of the presentation, which I love, so that you can actually not have to open another browser window. You just play it straight from there. And again, you would just click through your slides. So this is not a very exciting presentation. So, but I did want to show you what it looks like in presentation mode. Notice if I press play, it just going through the whole thing, sort of like a slideshow. So I'm going to go ahead and close this window. But again, that was from the presentation view. So I just realized as I was going through that we didn't talk about transitions. Transitions are what happens between one slide to the next slide. So you can actually add transitions. At the top, one of your options is transition, and if you click on the transition button, it'll give you some options. There aren't very many because a lot of people find transitions can be distracting, so they've kind of used some a smaller amount so that you don't have to have tons of different ones. But let's say you wanted to just fade from one to the next. You can choose the speed of how quickly you want it to fade. If you want to preview it, you can kind of click play and it'll show you what it looks like. So that's the, maybe I want it to fade a little faster, so I can drag that over. So let's slide that over and play again so that you can see that oh yes, that was much faster. And then you have the ability to click apply to all slides. So now every single slide is going to fade between them. So if I go back to present a new window and I change the size of this so that you can see it, sorry about that, then if I choose play and I go from slide to slide, you'll see it's fading between each one. So that's what those transitions are for. So again, you do have the ability to do transitions. Now, you do have the ability to do some animation on your slides. For example, if I wanted this little smiley face to do something while in my presentation, I can click on something, and as long as I have my animations menu open, I can choose add animation, and I can decide what I want it to do when it comes in, and you can also choose for it to do something when it goes out. But maybe I want it to fly in from the top of the screen. So if I choose that and I play it, you'll see that my little face is going to fly in from the top. So maybe I want that to happen, and I want it to happen only when I click, or maybe I want it to happen right after the thing that happened before it, or with the thing that happened before it, which in this case was the fading from one slide to another. So you can do some basic animations with this. There's not a whole bunch of customizing animations. You can't create animation paths or that kind of thing that's in PowerPoint. But again, a lot of people find when they're using a presentation that if they're wanting something moving, they tend to use a video. So anyway, there are some basic animations there. And if you want to add more, you can continue to add them, and they'll just appear in this little list of things. So if you wanted it to then fly out, you can make it fly out. So that's what the animations are. So we've talked about presenting. We've talked about making the slide animate, making it the slide transition. One of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about is you have the option to print it or save it in other versions. Now, if you, we discourage printing, but if for some reason you really needed to print this, there is the ability to click print. And when you choose to print a presentation, you do get some of those more setting options. You can decide to fit it to a page if you want. Notice if I don't, it's kind of just a small portion of the page, and I can tell you the letter size of that type of thing. But you do not get the option to print the slide with notes and all those things like you got. If you're used to PowerPoint, you were able to see those. So there is a smaller amount of choices in terms of printing. It's basically full, do you want it to be fit on the page or in the corner of the page? or if you wanted it to be back and front, but you can't do the 6 slides on a page or those type of settings. So that option is different. The other thing that I do want to show you that you can do is download it in other formats. So if I'm finished with this presentation and I've presented it, but maybe the people who came to my presentation wanted a copy and I didn't want them to necessarily have the slides version, I can actually download it in other versions. We talked about downloading it as a PowerPoint slide um, earlier when we talked about importing a PowerPoint. You can continue to download them in PowerPoint format. You can also download it in PDF format, which a lot of people like that because then they can just scroll through the slides without having to actually go in presentation mode and view something. The other thing that's kind of nice is that you can create images from the slides. So notice it says current slide. So if I really liked this and wanted to save it as a picture, I could download it as an image. So that's something else that you can do as well. So notice all along as I've been making changes, this has continued to save currently. So, and it even tells me the last change I made was 2 minutes ago. So it's constantly editing and constantly saving rather as I'm editing. So if I close this presentation right now, I know it's saved in my Google Slides presentation folder, so I can always open it and go back to it. Now, it's also true that perhaps Amber is in there editing right now, and maybe she has made some changes. And when I go back into the slideshow, maybe I open up the slideshow and I realize after the show loads, she's deleted some of my slides. Well, the great thing about this that wouldn't be there with PowerPoint is that I can actually restore this to an earlier version. So I can go into File, see Revision History, and I can go over and see, okay, today at 10:28 something happened. Let's see what is happening in this slide. Let's show a more detailed version. So it's showing me all these things that happened. Oh, there. Oh, Amber deleted them because look, they weren't here, but then when Jane was here, here they are. All of them are there. Well, as the owner of this file, I can choose to restore this revision. And so now I get all my slides back. So that is something that you could not do with PowerPoint. If somebody in your group deleted half your slides, oh well, they're gone. You have to recreate them. So this is something that's really good because you can get those slides back. So I hope this has kind of given you an introduction to what you can do with Google Slides, that you can either start with your PowerPoints and bring them into Google Slides, or you can create your own. I did want to show you, because normally we have your agenda. So we have sent you a copy of the agenda. So if I go into my inbox, I'm going to refresh. I've got an email from Amber in my Jane Doe box here that has the agenda attached. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because I want to show you a resource at the bottom. So these are all the things that we just went over together. But down at the bottom, it shows using templates. So there's a link here called Google Slides Templates. So I'm going to click on that for just a minute because I want you to see what this shows. Oh, look at all these awesome templates. And if I click on more, there's lots of different templates. Well, you don't actually have to click on that link in the document. There is another way to get there. I'll go to my mailbox and show you. Remember how we tell you to always go to Google Drive and not to the actual apps? Well, if you wanted to use the Google Slides templates, you do have to click on Google Slides. When you click there, these templates show up at the top. If you click on more, you will see all the different templates they have. So, you know, if you wanted to do a photo album with Google Slides, if you wanted to do a project presentation, there are some ideas here with templates. So you could do that if you wanted to get to it from your agenda, or you could go to the Rubik's Cube and go directly to slides. The other thing that we found that we love is something called Slides Carnival, and Slides Carnival offers free presentation templates for Google Slides, and this is where we found a lot of our different ones that we really love. And all you have to do is either go to all or go to these different categories, creative, simple, elegant. And once you click on a topic area, it will show you different template ideas, and you just download ones that you like. And these are free and they're really well done. They generally come with some icons, and they also ask that you leave the last slide on to give them credit for sharing them with you. But Slides Carnival is a great website. And again, that's linked from your agenda, which you'll be receiving in your email. There's also a link to the slides cheat sheet. And remember, those cheat sheets are great because they're one pagers that tell you everything you need to know about Google Slides in one sheet. There's also slides tips. These tips are going to be the little tip cards that are on the Google Apps Learning Center that give you some ideas of how to use slides, or different little tips on things you can do that you may not know you could do. Then there's also a Guru Slides resource that's linked there as well, that you may want to check out from the Guru. So your agenda will give you all the information to the links and the information that we just talked about today. But I hope you enjoyed presenting with Google Slides, and we will see you at another Google workshop very soon. In the meantime, don't forget, check out our Google Apps YouTube channel to learn more about Google Apps, and we'll see you at the next workshop.